call the roll and note that who all is here. Myself, of course, Dennis Bland.
Present.
Trent Engberg.
Here.
Jen Fisher. Here. Colleen Gabbard.
Present.
Lisa Hirschman.
Here.
Chris Lamotte. Here. Dan Peterson. Here. Alfonso Vitale. Here. And we know that John Costas was not able to join us. Al Hubbard, Chris Murphy may be calling in, and Beth Pitts may be calling in, and then John Powell. However, we do have 9 of 14, so we do have a present, and 9 present, and a quorum is set. So I will declare the quorum. We're also very pleased to be here at the Bensons Aviation Technology Center. It's a beautiful facility, as all of you can tell, and very fascinating. It was really great to have lunch in a hangar. You know, it's kind of a nice treat, and really enjoyed that. I'm very pleased to welcome Mike Garrett, who's the director of our Aviation Center here at near the airport in Indianapolis. And Mike, would you share a few words, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the Aviation Technology Center. I'm Mike Garrett, the Director of Aviation for Bensons University, with responsibility for our flight and aviation maintenance programs. This building is 26 and a half years old, if you can believe it. And I know that because I've been here since it opened first day. So I'm very proud of this facility and all that we do here. We did just have a renovation a few years ago, so that's why everything looks shiny and new still. Just to take a brief moment and kind of explain a few exciting new things that we're doing here. So obviously we do aviation maintenance and aviation flight training. The aviation industry is booming right now with very high wages and lots of demand, so that's exciting. The room that you're actually in right now, along with a couple of other rooms in this hallway, will become part of an InFAME program. That's an advanced manufacturing program that Bensons is working with local industry to create. So actually shortly after this meeting's over, in the next couple of weeks, these areas will be demoed, and so next year this space will be filled with machinery. In addition, we have a partnership with the Lift Academy. This is a subsidiary of Republic Airlines to help, again, with the advanced growth in pilot training and the need there. So we've partnered with Lift. We'll bolt on the associate's degree and do all of the lecture-based training towards the flight certificates, and Lift will do the flying. That's in addition to our standalone flight program. And then the latest creation we have here is a partnership with Decatur Township, where we have a 1-semester sheet metal option for high school students. So those kids that maybe don't want to commit to our full 1-year or 2-year dual credit aviation maintenance high school program can take just 1 semester of sheet metal specific training. That's a partnership with Decatur and AAR Corporation. Those students graduate high school with this training, go straight to work at AAR, and kind of get their foot in the door working on large aircraft, and then can come back here and complete their airframe and power plant certifications and degrees. So lots of exciting things going on here. Again, welcome. We're glad to host this. We've been here several times, and we always enjoy having this group here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike, very much, and it's our pleasure to be here as well. At this time, I'll move into the chair's reports, and I'm pleased to recognize that Lisa Hirschman is joining us. Here's Lisa right there. We're pleased to have her, but we're also disappointed that we're going to be losing her. As many of you know, she has most recently been finally confirmed as the Chief Management Officer for the Defense Department, which is a big deal. I mean, probably the number 3 person in our Defense Department for the United States government, which is pretty remarkable. As a result of that role, unfortunately, she is not going to be able to continue to serve on our commission, and we're very disappointed with that. She has had a dramatic impact on the commission for a number of years, has served since 2014 in a number of roles as secretary, as vice chair, and been very active in multiple committees, particularly with student success, and really contributed great things. We'd just like to really say thank you, Lisa, and just a small token of our appreciation, and have a resolution. And I've asked Judd if he could read that resolution for us, please.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Resolution honoring Lisa Hirschman. Whereas Lisa Hirschman served with distinction on the Indiana Commission for Higher Education since her initial appointment in June 2014, and reappointment in July 2017 to represent the 4th Congressional District. And whereas Lisa's exceptional leadership skills were recognized by other commission members who serving as commission secretary before being elected vice chair in August 2017. And whereas Lisa brought new perspective as a member of the Academic Affairs and Quality and Student Success and Completion Committees. And whereas Lisa was actively involved with the development of 2 biennial budget recommendations, including the Commission's most recent recommendation for the 2019-2021 biennium. And whereas Lisa's unwavering commitment to student success and timely completion was clear in all aspects of her membership on the Commission. And whereas Lisa made significant contributions to the development of the Commission's 4th strategic plan, Reaching Higher in a State of Change. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the Indiana Commission for Higher Education expresses its deep appreciation to Lisa Hirschman for her nearly 6 years of service to the state on behalf of Indiana higher education, and wishes her well in her continued public service following her confirmation by the U.S. Senate as Chief Management Officer, the 3rd in command position at the U.S. Department of Defense.
Thank you, Judd. And I assume that is a motion for approval.
Yes.
And many seconds. And before we vote, even though there is absolutely no question that it won't be approved, I know other people would have a few things they'd like to share as well. So I'll open the table for others' discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to commend and thankful that I'm on the commission that is recognizing Lisa. I've had the privilege of working with Lisa over the last 6 years, 2 different strategic plans, and her impact, her thoughtful questions, her strategic thinking really always added so much value to this commission and to our higher education system in the state. So I just wanted to comment and say, Lisa, you'll be deeply missed, but we're very, very excited and supportive of what you're doing for our country.
Lisa, I just want to share that I'm so proud of you and so proud to have known you. I think to have a Hoosier woman in the position that you are in, I think I saw that you are the first woman to serve in that position. Is that correct? Yeah, and so to have that example is one of the best ways that you can serve Hoosier students. So while we've really appreciated all of your input and your feedback and your help on the commission, we're all so proud of you and really grateful for the continued example that you set for Hoosier women, both men and women. Thank you.
And just to add, Lisa, as sad as we are to see you leave this group, I am just so glad for the Department of Defense. It gives me a lot better comfort and feeling that they have you in that position. So congratulations, much deserved, and thanks for all your service.
Thank you.
You know, let's do the vote, and then we'll let you respond.
All right.
All right, the motion is on the table, been moved and seconded, and again, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, let the record show through acclamation that it was indeed passed. So Lisa, again, thank you for the service you've given us. Yes.
Well, I have to say, and I'll make it brief, but thank you for this. But it's been my honor to be part of this organization. I remember when I was nominated the first time, I wasn't sure if I could add any value because I saw the roster of people who serve on this board and seen over the years, and what a magnificent group of folks. And what started as colleagues, you've all become friends. And I've learned from all of you and will continue to. I will tell you unequivocally, especially in the Pentagon, everyone knows I sit on this commission because every time we talk about our military personnel, the family, and the training, and going back to school, I go, yeah, we know. So I will always continue to be hopefully a mouthpiece for all the great work that this commission does. I've encouraged other states when they talk about their programs for military and so forth to come and talk to this Indiana Commission. I was required to step down 90 days after my confirmation. The night of my confirmation, I texted my chief of staff and I said, block the 13th, I'm going. And so the standards of conduct office keeps telling me, I haven't seen your resignation letter. I'm like, I still have a few more days, so I'm going to go to this last meeting. So it meant a lot to me, and it's been a joy. And like I said, we'll start as colleagues. I hope we remain as friends. And please come see me at the Pentagon anytime. I'd love to host you. It's one of my favorite things to do. So let me know. I'd delight to have you and families and friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and again, we will deeply miss you, but as my colleague said, we're really glad you're where you're going to be in Washington. Hope you can bring some sense there. We will be working with the governor's office. Lisa has represented the 4th district within the state, and we will be working with the governor's office to identify a new commission member in due course, so that'll be taking place shortly. Just wanted a couple of things I'd like to remind you all and ensure you get on your calendars is the Kent Weldon Conference for Higher Education is scheduled for Tuesday, April 7th, and I hope you'll all be there. It'll be a particularly great time for us to focus on our new strategic plan and reaching higher in a state of change and addressing the work demands and the innovations that will be necessary and that we will be leading to do that. We've already got 2 great keynote speakers. Governor Edgar Whitcomb will be there in one of our keynotes, as well as John Simpkins, who's the Vice President of the Aspen Global Leadership Network with the Aspen Institute. So you won't want to miss that. That'll be great. Also on another date, on Thursday, June 4th, we'll be having the 21st Century Scholars 30th Anniversary Celebration. And that will be at the Built-Well Event Center in downtown Indianapolis. And again, that'll be a great opportunity for us to really celebrate further the great success. We've got a lot of our alumni that will be coming back that were 21st Century Scholars that will serve on a panel and talk about their experiences and the value that they received from this program. Really will be a great special event and a great celebration. And we can thank the generous support of the Lumina Foundation for helping to fund that. So we're very pleased about that. And again, I spoke earlier about the 21st Century Scholars Day at the State House this last week. Great event, and again, I think really reiterated to our elected officials just how important and the impact that program is having with our students and bringing forth some great young leaders that will emerge and serve great things and be great economic drivers for our state going forward. Also, just wanted to thank our commissioner for giving the state of higher education, and again, once again, providing a great presentation on our strategic plan and the impact that is going to have and what's going to be driving us as we're going forward. So we can be very proud of the plan that's been put in place and the team that we have that's leading our execution of this strategic plan. So with that concludes my remarks, and I'll turn it over to the commissioner for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate those gracious comments about Tuesday. I'll make a couple comments about that as well. But I have to start by, on behalf of the staff, acknowledging our deep support to Lisa Hirschman for really the counsel she's provided through these years. It's been a pure delight to have her with us on a personal level, and I think on a professional level, her strategic thinking has helped us so many times, and I'm sure that's one of many reasons why the Department of Defense is so grateful to have her. And as Colleen mentioned, as the highest ranking woman ever confirmed by the U.S. Senate for this position in the Department of Defense, maybe at the highest level of Department of Defense for a woman, right? So that's pretty extraordinary, and a Hoosier on top of that. And she still, believe it or not, she and Brant still come home every weekend, and we were just chatting about this. I think it's one of the ways that she stays level, sane, in the midst of what I'm sure is an incredibly, not only a difficult job, but I think very few people understand the sacrifices that people make who serve in those kinds of positions. I mean, it is nonstop every single day. And so thank you for your willingness to do that and for your service here, but as you mentioned, for your friendship as well. Thanks. So let me begin by thanking those of you either in the audience or other commission members who were able to be with us on Tuesday for what was a really great day, highlighting the 21st Century Scholars Program and the 30th anniversary, highlighting the launch of our new strategic plan. I was pleased that I think we had the largest audience we've ever had for this event. This was the 8th State of Higher Education address that I had the chance to deliver. And the audience was really representative of those people who we have worked with in the development of our plan. So we had students, we had college and university leaders, we had legislators and other policymakers, we had philanthropic groups who were there as well. So I think it was our opportunity to show that the work that each of those groups had contributed to our plan was recognized in the way that plan actually came together. And of course, special thanks goes to those of you on the commission who've really helped us over what was, I know it may not seem like a hefty document, but it's hefty in terms of what it's calling on us to do, and it's really been guided by your counsel. I hope that you will appreciate and indulge me in saying that my strongest words of appreciation are really reserved for the key staff members who put this together. In particular, I have to call out Stephanie and Liz and Charlie and Doug, all of who are here with us today, who have worked throughout the year to bring a really quality product to you. So if you'll join me in thanking them. As was also mentioned, we did launch what is going to be a year-long celebration of the Scholars Program. Great way for us to do it. We had President Pro Tem Bray in the Senate side and Speaker of the House Boswell on the House side, who actually introduced those resolutions on our behalf. And but the really important part is that we had all the scholars standing behind us on the floor that day. And so while they were just representative of the 40,000 plus graduates that we've had of the program, it was a visible reminder to legislators that their ROI was really the people who have graduated from this program. And I made a really compelling case for that. And we're going to continue that celebration and highlight those stories throughout the year with, of course, as the chairman has indicated, a big celebration in June. So thanks to all of you who worked with us on that. We provided copies of the strategic plan. We provided copies of the resolution that was offered on the House and Senate floors about the Scholars Program. I've also provided a release of just an overview of the State of Indiana's draft of our combined plan for the Workforce and Opportunity Act, the WIOA plan. We received permission from the Department of Labor to actually do a combined plan, and it really is focused on the work that the Governor's Workforce Cabinet is doing as well, aligning all aspects of education and workforce from early childhood education to careers and lifelong learning. This is out now for about a month for public comment. It was, as I mentioned earlier, over 500 pages, which there's a short executive summary as well. But it really reflects what the Governor's Workforce Cabinet in this plan tried to articulate, which is we are trying to pivot our state programs and funding and policies from the agencies to the people we serve. And so it calls out very clearly the kinds of populations of people who will be served by this. We will be submitting this to the Department of Labor within a month or so. Finally, I often cite work that's come out from the Georgetown Center of Education and Workforce, because they do such extraordinary work in so many ways, highlighting trends in higher education, realities in higher education. Their most recent one that came out really expands on the federal U.S. Department of Education's college scorecard. Their attempt this year has been to rank. This is an ambitious undertaking, and I think it's why they entitled it a first try at ROI, ranking 4,500 colleges. I've often said through the years, if you waited to have a study perfect, you would never do one. And sometimes you just have to put one out there and start letting people throw things at it before it can ever get better. But there were some takeaways from this that are not true every place, but these were trends. That bachelor's degrees for private colleges on average have higher long-term returns on investment decades out. Colleges that primarily award associate degrees have the highest short-term return. In the long term, 10 years after enrollment, bachelor's degrees surpass most two-year credentials. And public colleges where tuition is lower and students have less debt lead to better returns than private colleges at the 10-year mark. So there's something that everybody can look at and say, wow, we were good there. But I think it will be interesting to see how this report evolves over the years. Generally speaking, and I talked to Sean about this, these findings would hold true for us as well, although there are notable exceptions to the trends. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you very much, Commissioner Lovers. Now, we'll move into the business portion of the meeting, and the minutes of our previous meeting are reflected in your books. Are there any questions regarding that?
Just there's a mistake on page 3, there's just there's a public square building count in the 21st century, James Aristoteles thing, just missing a T in there.
Okay, all right, good, so noted, thank you. So with that modification, would you be willing to move for approval?
Yes.
All right, Judd, thank you very much. Second. And second by Dan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are passed. Thank you very much. Now let's move into our public square, and we're really pleased today to have a couple of folks from Invested here with us. Joe Wood, President and CEO, and Bill Wozniak, the Vice President of Marketing. And they've had a dramatic impact on the affordability of college education and preparing students for that monumental moment of paying for college. So with that, I'll turn it to you, gentlemen, to share a little bit of information about your company and what some of the things you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Lovers, Commissioners.
And I think Colby's gonna,
Yes.
yeah, there we go. Colby, did you have anything you wanted to say first?
I was just going to frame a little bit of
Yeah, please
what
do.
today's public score session is going to be about. It's the topic today is educational equity through college affordability. So when we're speaking of educational equity, we mean that life circumstances or obstacles should not dictate opportunity to succeed. The Commission's focus on equity includes low-income and minority learners, but it also includes populations that reflect the demographics of our state, including age, gender, veteran status, those with disabilities, foster youth, incarcerated Hoosiers, and learners from rural communities. We believe that improving college affordability by decreasing the cost of college and reducing reliance on debt are effective strategies for achieving educational equity. And specifically, the Commission's new strategic plan, Reaching Higher in a State of Change, calls for using proactive outreach to increase the number of learners taking advantage of our existing financial aid programs and advocating that all students gain financial literacy skills to help make informed choices about education and training beyond high school. So we're very excited today to hear about the work that Invested is doing and how this relates to our work and our new strategic plan. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Joe and Bill to kick us off.
Thanks, Colby. I apologize for jumping in so quick. Bill and I get kind of excited talking about this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that kind introduction, and Commissioner Lovers for having us, and for the rest of the commissioners for enduring, but it's probably going to be a heck of a presentation. You know, we divided it up into 3 parts at Colby's request to tell you a little bit about who we are, who Invested is, and how we approach outreach and literacy overall around the state of Indiana, and have been doing that for a number of decades. And Colby also asked us to talk a little bit about what we were hearing in the field, what we were seeing out there amongst, you know, when Bill and his folks do their presentations, and we talk to our board members and things like that. We get some feedback, and he kindly asked us to share with that with you as well. But before I got started, I wanted to echo what Chairman Hubbard said the other day about Teresa's leadership. It has been a real pleasure working with you over these last 20 years that I've been in Indiana, now naturalized Hoosier, thankfully. But, you know, it's just been great to watch, you know, your leadership and what it's done for the citizens of our state. So I'm just going to jump into it and tell you a little bit about who we are. We are, Invested was originally created statutorily as the Indiana Secondary Market for Education Loans, Inc. In 1980. There was a certain level of genius, we think, in the way that it was created, because in those days, the problems that folks in government and in the private sector were wrestling with were not dissimilar from what we see today. You know, Mark Twain always said that, you know, history may not repeat itself, but it rhymes. And so in those days, they were wrestling with access and affordability. It was a real problem. You had folks who couldn't get funding and things like that. So they created it, many states around the country created entities like InvestEd to manage that problem. We are, as I noted, a statutory nonprofit, and we sit between state government and the private sector. So we have, by our creation, we just have a great deal of flexibility to help solve problems, and that's what we're committed to do always. We have, over our 40-year history, I know we've helped hundreds of thousands just in the time that I've been in Indiana. I can't tell you precisely what we did prior to that, but we helped hundreds of thousands in those days too. And Mike knows my predecessor, Steve Clinton, and others who've been with the company, and we're very proud of the work that we've done. In 2016, after working at this for a little over a decade, Bill came to me one day and he said, I really think we're doing great work, but I don't think people understand who we are. So we did a little statewide survey. I told you earlier, our statutory name is Indiana Secondary Market for Education Loans, Inc. If you put that in letters, it's I smell. So we thought that would lead us, give us a great opportunity to pursue a rebranding project, which is what we did. And ISM, which we had, we had Chart I Smell in 2000 to ISM, and we did engage the guys at Vox, and we went through a very deep dive into what we were about, what was our core set of values and our core function, supporting education in the state, and what we came out with was the state of Indiana with a graduation board on it, and InvestEd. IN is in our name. That's who we are. And our mission has always been increasing the understanding of the importance of post-secondary education planning, the planning part of it, and how to pay for it, and how that affects people's future success. And there's a lot of talk about that these days. And one of the things that, just kind of as a backdrop, well, I'll stop there for a second and just see if anybody has any questions about that part of
And you might just comment, as you change your branding, are you going to talk about what changed in your mission?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's Bill's department.
Okay, all right.
One of the backdrop, to what we've done over the last 4 decades is what's happened to higher education debt, and I'm not going to tell you anything here that you haven't heard a million times already. $1.6 trillion in student debt. A study last year released said that 65% of 2018 graduates had some student debt at private and public colleges. That average debt is almost $33,000. State of Indiana, it's a bit lower, and it's costing students and their families close to $400 a month, and those are after-tax dollars, obviously. So it's more than $400. But the juxtaposition of that is that the more education you have, your lifetime unemployment rate, again, this is nothing anybody in the room doesn't already know, particularly folks on this commission, your lifetime unemployment rate drops pretty dramatically the more education you have. And your lifetime earnings go up. So those are things that we have, for our entire 40 years, have steadfastly communicated to students and their families that the more you plan, the harder you work at the front end of it, the better outcome you're going to have after that. And Teresa asked about the legislative change we had in 2013, 2014. Part of that was to codify. We always did financial aid literacy. That was what we did. That was, we had, what was the old organization? IACAC. We were one of the original funders of that back in 1990, or whenever that was. We always did that kind of work, but around the state there were many people that did it, and in 2008, when there was a financial crisis, a lot of people abandoned that work because it was work that, costs money. And for us, it was part of our mission. So in 2013, that became part of our legislative mandate, in addition to making private student loans that were affordable. We always did refinancing loans. That was always part of who we were. But those were the things that changed in 2013, 2014. And having said that, though, what we do at InvestEd aligns almost perfectly with the components of your new strategic program. I should say revised, not really new, right? It's the evolve. That's the word. That's the word. Improving college affordability and limiting borrowing is something we do. That's for someone who makes loans, we do it kind of in an odd way by telling people not to take loans. Make sure that they exhaust all their free resources every time they have a chance to, grant free money scholarships, grants. And our state's very generous in terms of grant money, as you all know very well. And then the other piece of that, of course, is the planning process. By having a well-crafted plan, you increase the probability of completion, which is what we're all about, right? Completion is what has to happen. And to that end, we asked tutors, and in part of an annual survey that we do, we asked tutors back in November, what their opinions were, and 9 out of 10 said they value education beyond high school. Not surprising, right? We've all been taught that, and that's a pretty ubiquitous public message. 8 out of 10 were concerned about the level of student debt in achieving that goal, and yet 90%, or 9 out of 10, said they wanted access to a free and transparent resource that could help them, help guide them on the path, which is what we do, primary thing we do. A little bit about how we're governed. As a statutory organization, we are governed by a 9-member board, all appointed by the governor of the state of Indiana, and I'm sure there are a lot of names on this list that you will all recognize, friends and colleagues and coworkers and whatnot. We are fortunate to have a really, really great board. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I'd like to count 36 or something like that. Working for boards like this, this is absolutely the best one I've ever had. Chuck Shalio is our chair, and those of you who know Chuck know he is a top flight leader and a top flight guy to run a board like this. But you'll see all those folks. And then how the organization looks, you see, of course, at the top, we serve at the pleasure, all of the pleasure of the governor, just like everyone. Our board of directors, and myself, I've been here since 2002. Our CFO, Innovation, also 2002. Bill's been here since 2003. And I have a veteran staff of folks who've been in the student funding, student aid sector for most of their careers, most of them with tenures into 2 decades. That's shortened up a little bit since the number of events that we do now has increased to such a level that we've brought in a whole bunch of new people. So we've got a total of 6 or 7 people now that do nothing but presentations, college nights, which Bill will tell you a lot more about here in a minute. I think that ends this part of the discussion, but I entertain any questions on that part. Anybody has anything? Failing that, I'll turn it over to Bill, and he'll get into the real part of it.
Thanks, boss. Okay, so the outreach and literacy, so a little bit about the what. So what do we do, how do we attack it, and things of that nature. So the quick overview, we're going to talk about the events. Events are a big part of what we do. Help for Hoosiers going beyond the events, how we do things after and before the events. Also feedback, how we sort of monitor how things are being perceived and appreciated or not. And then partnership, as everybody here knows how important partnership is. So first, let's just go into the events. So with our outreach and literacy, we look at the entire state. We want to help the entire state of Indiana. Our promise since 2003 and before, as Joe mentioned, has been we will help any Hoosier with any paying for college question anytime. And that seemed a little bit grandiose at the very beginning, and we were going to see how many times the phone rang, and Joe would check with me about every hour. I'm like, we're still okay. We're still okay. It's ringing a lot more now these days, though, but he's got a little more help. So we'll help anybody, anywhere, at any time, more planning, how do you pay for college so that you get more success, get better completion, better outcomes, and less debt. So the high-level synopsis very quickly, in calendar year 2019, 572 events at 156 different high schools, and attendees overall at all the events that we were a part of was over 51,000 of all these different forms. It takes out, some nights it's 2, and some nights it's 200. It's soup to nuts. But that was just the high-level synopsis. So we break our events into 3 main categories: planning, paying, finalizing. So the planning is the, wrap your head around what's about to come. These are sort of geared towards 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders. The funny thing is, at some of these events, we're now seeing senior families come. And we're like, what are you doing here? They're like, we want a little more. It's like, that's fine. And on the finalizing and the paying, that's more seniors. Guess what? We're seeing a lot of 8th and 9th grade families coming, and they're going, we want to get in front of this. So it's a very interesting blend. But those are the 3 main categories of how we attack events. So what we did over the years is we heard from the counselors what they wanted, the school counselors, for their students and families, what they would like, what type of curriculum, what type of content they would like. The financial aid night, which I'll talk about in a moment, was really the bedrock where we began. And then a few counselors said to us, could you come in for the 8th and 9th graders? And we were like, that's a good idea. And so we started coming in, and that's where the early awareness came from, and that's the first event as we go linear. So early awareness, the scope is to energize parents, get the students focused on how are we going to plan for this. Career interest inventories, what would you like to do? What do you want to be? What are the benefits of post-secondary education? How do you go about researching all this? 529s, I mean, we could go on and on about all these different things, and we list it in the topics section there. But this is the get in front of it, get your thoughts right on about how big this is. And at the end of the early awareness event, just about every night that I speak or my team speaks, the families just come up and go, we got a lot in front of us. And we're like, we're there for you the whole way, concierge service, we'll help you no matter what. And that's the purpose of the early awareness event. The other early awareness type thing that we think is important is college fairs, because a college fair oftentimes is 7 or 8 schools in a particular area, or maybe we're working closely with 2 of the schools or 3 of the schools. So it's an opportunity to put our offerings out in front of those that may not see us at the school, interact with more people, but also, again, they have it really front and center in their mind. They're looking at the colleges, they're starting to really think about this. Then they pass our table and go, man, we should think about how to pay for this too. So the early awareness events and the college fairs is really that planning part. Then we get to the financial aid night, which is sort of the bedrock of our paying part. And again, ideally, this was sort of senior year. This was 12th grade, senior year. How do I do the Fafsa? How do I do this? Where do I send the paperwork to? And that was really the genesis where everything grew out of. So this is sort of the typical financial aid night. This is the senior year, but it's spreading so far and wide. We talk about things like 15 to finish, staying on time, how important it is to not fall behind, how that impacts grants, scholarships, student loan debt, really have the things in place. What are the deadlines for the colleges, for the financial aid forms, and on and on. But again, this is the, hey, you're heading off to school in 8 months. Do we have our ducks in a row? And we meet people that haven't begun to think about it at that point, and we also meet people that we've known for 5 years at this point. So that's the financial aid night. That's sort of the traditional event that would happen at schools long ago. We added in the Fafsa completion event. As many of you here in the room know, we play a big role with College Goal Sunday, the Commission, ISFA, and so many wonderful groups working together for Fafsa completion. But the high school started to say to us, could you come to our high school on this night for 2 hours in the computer lab, because we want to do a few of these over the course of the year. I asked Joe said it's okay, so we went. And this has just grown and grown and grown because many students feel just safer, they just feel more comfortable at their own location, at their own school, and so why would we not accommodate that? And so FAFSA completion events are very popular, a very important part of what we do. Then the finalizing is a part that's the newest part as far as events go with us. We call them FAFSA follow-up. And this is that part where the students now get 4 award letters and they don't know what they're looking at. I can't tell you how many times, and it happened a couple years ago at a wonderful school in the northern part of the state, a family walked up, they showed me their award letter. And they said, this is great, like we owe nothing. They saw the top cost of attendance number and they saw 0 at the bottom. And I looked and I just said, are you okay with the $17,000 parent loan? And they were like, no, that's a grant. And I'm like, no, it's a loan. And they're like, no, it's a grant. And I said, it's the parent loan for undergraduate students. And they went running back over to the financial aid table, they talked it over and blah, blah, blah. But that's the type of thing where families need to understand what this all means. And also not just 1 year. What's it gonna cost freshman year, but what's it gonna cost for 4 years? They get through year one and then they have all sorts of issues. It's like, we need a 4-year plan. So this FAFSA follow-up really digs into that, and we spend a lot of time with family there on the topics. Again, you can see it right there on the page. So what we're trying to do is we want to engage families in the college financial process, start early, save what you can, take advantage of 529 if possible. Don't miss out on anything in the plan. By the way, we gave everybody a guide that I'll talk a little bit more about in 1 second, but this guide here is distributed at all our events and things of that nature. And we have checklists, senior year checklist, junior year checklist, because we want people to have a roadmap even after the event ends or we are no longer with them. So here's where you can refer. Again, as I say at all my events, the back page is the most important: phone number and email. So I get done, nobody has a question, and then the phone rings, they go, we heard Bill speak a few months ago and we have questions. And my team says, if you heard Bill speak, you have questions. I don't think that's in a nice way. But anyway, so that's our goal, try to get everybody energized in this whole process. So at our events, we want everybody to maximize free money, minimize student loan debt, submit applications on time, and be better positioned for completion and future success. Okay? So the next section, real quick, is how families can connect with us anytime. The thing that we found over the years was the events are wonderful, but you can only do so much in 45, 52, 54 minutes. We're not going to be able to go every step of the way in those events. And so the discussion or the planning starts before the events and it carries on after the events. And this is something that families really appreciate, the school counselors really appreciate, because they know we're concierge service. The phone call comes in and Matt answers and they're like, I want to talk to Robert. They call Robert and they get Susan. And they're like, no, I don't want to talk to Bill. We know that. So they want to pass around. And it's just wonderful how these families reach out and then they call back and they go, hey, I really thought I had it, but now I have a new question. Well, that doesn't make them a bad person. This goes on and on and on. And so this is the part here where they can connect with us anytime. I mentioned the college planning guide. 145 Indiana schools distribute this guide. The rule we had years and years ago, I went to Joe, I said, Joe, I need money to print these guides. He's like, okay, just make sure they're used, make sure they're valuable. So we told counselors, you can have these for free, but you have to distribute them. They can't just be in a box somewhere. We're not dropping them off at the front door and counting the school. They have to promise to distribute them. They have to raise their right hand, we make them say they're going to distribute, and that's what they do. They distribute the guides. 145 schools, over 30,000 were distributed for this current school year. And again, we hand them out at events, and we use them in other places as well, because I think it's a nice synopsis of the help and things that people should be doing. Individualized help. So as I said, it goes beyond. So what we do is we make ourselves accessible where the person wants to engage in the discussion. And so as we sit here in early 2020, we have live chat, we have email, we have phone calls, we have live in-person events, we have printed materials. In the back of your books, we gave you all these one-pagers that we have. These are different one-pagers that people print off from our website. We'll walk into high schools all the time and they just have printed these off for their students, how to file the FAFSA, create your FSA ID, checklist, scholarship search. Our team creates these all summer. That's how they spent their summer vacation, building these every year as things change. And so these are different things that we have, these bits of collateral, okay? So it's whatever the family, whatever the students, whatever works for them, we want to be accessible. And so email, phone, live chat. Our individuals helped number in 2017 was 6,484, then it went to 7,700, and now it just passed 10,000 in 2019. These are not attendees at an event. Attendees at an event are one thing. These are people that called us or sat with us, came by our office and sat with us or something. They engaged with us in a different way for specific college planning help. And we have all these resources for counselors and families that I just showed you in the back of the book. Finally, we get constant feedback as best we can. So we do, Joe talked about the company-wide, statewide survey that is done, what are the impressions of Hoosiers and whatnot. So at the end of our events, we do a survey, anonymous survey, no name, turn it upside down on your your table and leave and stuff like that. We set it up with the counselor. And so over 1,000 responses in the current academic year. We'll get to about 1,600 or 1,700 in the next month or two. Over 99% found the event helpful in answering their questions. 98% would recommend Invested someone else, and over 96% are likely to contact Invested for further help. One of my favorite answers after one of my events, I collected up the things, I turned them into the team, and somebody wrote on the bottom, they go, "You were helpful, but I didn't realize how much I don't know." And so in some ways I feel worse, but it wasn't your fault. I go, well, that's good, I think. So we do these surveys because we always just want to keep our, keep our ear to the ground and what we're hearing. And then we just shared 3 counselor testimonials. We have about 50 of these, but 3 of them are just in your book for you to read. Again, we go to the counselors and we go, hey, are we adding value or whatever? And they sort of grab our arm and go, please don't go anywhere. But you can read those testimonials right there. Finally, in my section, I just want to touch on the collaboration partners. Again, as everybody in this room, or almost everybody in this room knows, it's a big state with a lot of wonderful schools and a lot of wonderful families, but we can't do this alone. And CHE, of course, is the hub, is the center, is the foundation of so much that's going on, and we work with CHE staff so many nights a week. We miss them a little in the summer, until we see them at the fair again. But between the commission and ISFA, the Indiana Student Financial Aid Association, the JAG folks, CLD, of course, we love going there when we get our invitations over there to CLD. It's just working together, and I just think everybody works together so well. I mean, there's just so much to be done here. And so we collaborated. On the last page there of my section, we listed some of the things that the groups do on page 30, where the commission is doing these things, and so where we help out in some of these specific events. ISFA has the counselor workshops. Well, CHE, ISFA, and us have been working together on that for solidly the last 8 years. There was an earlier version as well. And last year, over 800 counselors attended these day-long events, the school counselors, and the number just keeps growing and growing, and the content is state content along with some other financial aid content, and it's just so well received. But we listed there, College Goal Sunday, all these other things. It's collaborative. You have to work together. It's a big project that we're all sort of attacking in our own way. And with that, that's it. That's what I got.
Any questions on any of that?
I actually have a question, and it's a disturbing question to ask, but the survey results that you have and some of the other information that we're getting from surveys about maybe some growing skepticism about actually the college experience and the value of that we keep confronting, and whether Hoosiers actually believe that education beyond high school is going to be important. Are you seeing any trends that would say, I think you used the number, Joe, 8 or 9 out of 10 believe that education beyond high school is important. Do you think that those numbers are holding, or do you see any change in that?
Go ahead, Bill, if you could.
Yeah, so we have to compare a few data points to get to this item. So when we do the statewide survey, we love that one because it's statewide, and it's a very broad survey, and people respond back, yes, we still see value in education. When we go to the high schools, the families still turn out. In fact, they're turning out more. But they're not saying to us, I'm interested only in a 4-year education at a private with a very traditional look. They're not saying that. They're saying, I need something after high school because of what Joe shared on the slide with the unemployment and the earnings. So what the parents, slide 6, yeah. So what the families say is, I want my child. I want my child to get a better income and not be unemployed 10 years down the road. And I don't think I can do that if they just stop after high school. So they're very clear, and we need more. Now, they're not saying they're anti-certificate, and they're not saying they're anti-very specialized training or that. So they want post-secondary education, but they want to know, how do I go about this? And so one of the big things we do is we work with net price calculators. We work with different tools to show the family, with your income level, here's sort of how it's going to look a few years out. This is specifically how it's going to look for you if you go to this school with this income as things stand today.
Maybe the difference we're seeing is that the people who you had the chance to talk to are ones who actually obviously have some interest in education beyond high school because they're showing up at those events. Maybe some of the other surveys that we're seeing are a reflection of those who are not showing up at those, and whether it's because of low unemployment rates or a dissatisfaction with something, or not necessarily seeing higher education as their ticket in the same way that we're trying to make the compelling case for.
And that's what I thought the value of the Vox survey that we did at the end of November, because I completely agree. We're talking to a certain audience, a growing audience, but a certain audience, absolutely. But in the statewide survey, we're not just going to those that attended our events. It's a broad survey company trying to get the pulse of all Hoosiers. That's where we were interested in how high that number was. And I think it's because of slide 6. People know they need it, but what form and shape is it going to take? And how are they going to go about it with less student loan debt? They want the education, they want the higher salary, they want the lower unemployment, but they don't also want the debt that so often comes along with it.
Yeah, I think they've tried to, it's hard to evaluate, kind of the trade-off. They don't, in the national media and everywhere you hear about debt. Nobody really describes it for what it really is, which is an investment itself, right, and your future. It may, there are two ways to look at that, of course. People who do it prudently, people who are careful about it, and then there are people who run the meter. So it happens.
So thanks for the great reports. Really super to learn more about this. I'm curious. There's 145 schools that you're involved in. There's 290 school systems in the state. Why aren't you in more? I mean, what are the reasons why schools wouldn't have you there?
Okay. So as over the years, we've had a nice growth and the organic growth where a counselor says to another counselor, do you know Invested? Well, at the time it was ISM. Now it's Invested. They're like, do you know Invested? They're like, no. And then they tell them a little bit about it. We come in, and at the end of the first event, they're like, you're coming back. And so we have this growth. And so every year I go to Joe and I go, Joe, this is how many bodies I need, and this is how much staffing we need, and all of that. There are more high schools that I think would greatly benefit from this. There are schools who absolutely, where the counselor says, we're doing enough, we do it ourselves. We actually help a few schools where the counselor sort of does a couple presentations, but then they have us in for like Fafsa completion or something like that. I think they could be doing a little more robust. But the point is, in the end, it's up to the school district, it's up to the school themselves, and we are not buying billboards on the highway to say we got to get into 100 new high schools next year. But the growth continues, and it could still continue, if Joe says it's okay.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, in fact, that was, one of the things, toward the end of what we're hearing. That survey was pretty illustrative on a number of things. One of them being that, people responding thought that cities and towns, their local communities benefited when residents are, avoid student debt and are better prepared. So that speaks to a pretty deep belief, right? I mean, if people think that getting educated is going to help their town, that's a pretty big deal to me. And that extends to their larger state community as well. And beyond that, they also have bought into the 2025 book for the most part. 6 out or almost 7 out of 10 of the respondents, they're bought into it. They believe it gives our state competitive advantage when compared to other Midwestern states. Your message is out there. It's out there, and people believe it, and they bought into it. But then there's this juxtaposition, right? So 8 out of 10 are concerned about the stifling effect of debt, and we think that's a language problem. Everybody couches everything in student debt, and when you start talking about student debt, it's not difficult. You don't have to dig too far into the pile to find you know, a bad actor, a bad case, a bad something. And of course, in today's media-driven world, that's what people focus on. They don't talk about as much about the overwhelming percentage, you know, 80, 90% of folks who actually get their loans, pay them back, and advance their careers and their lives. So, you know, one of the things we talk about is how do we change the language? How do we change the language? Chris, anything?
Yeah, actually, a couple of questions. One quick one, how are you funded?
So we, having been in existence for 40 years, we were a student lender, and we had all that. It's basically we're one product bank, for lack of a better description.
Okay.
And
So,
we've never had an appropriation from the state, or I think we got a $50,000 or $100,000 grant in 1981 from the Cummins Foundation.
yeah,
And from then on, we've done our own thing,
okay.
self-funded.
That was one. The other is, we had actually a conversation this morning, the commission, staff team around marketing, and the effort it takes to market and capture people's attention. And the reality is, I continue to be stunned, is the right word, at the number of people throughout our state that really don't know how to look for scholarships, don't know, not even thinking about college early enough, despite the constant messages, and somehow we're not connecting, we're not, you know, making an impact with the people that we need to make an impact. I don't know what the answer is, but I continue to be surprised that despite all of the effort, media campaigns and all those kinds of things, there's still way too many people that really don't know about scholarships, about loans, about college, about the value of college, about all those kinds of things. Not quite sure how to get at all that, but I'm struck by it.
I'm stunned daily at you know, particularly first generation folks. It is so hard to get to them and get the messages to them. But even at that, I think, and I'm sure Commissioner Lovers can bear this out, we don't live in a static world. Everything is changing, and you know, with technology and the advance of technology, it's changing at a rapid pace, and that includes not just, you know, the financial technology people use to pay for their higher ed, but the delivery systems for delivering higher ed. You saw Carol D'Amico's on our board. Carol and I talk about this all the time, the way that higher ed is evolving and how complicated it is to engage and connect people. Strata did a study, one of their research people, really bright lady, and did a comparison. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I think it was based on employment ads from 2009 or 2010, and just, you know, using keyword searches and, you know, all the data tools, they broke that down to you know, employers were looking for something on the magnitude of about 150 skills, right? And that was in like 2009, 2010. I think it was post-crash. And they redid the study 8 years later, and the number of skills, the same, like, I think it was 2 million ads or something like that. The same 2 million ads, you know, it's over 1,000 skills now. So we are, you know, the acceleration of what employers expect, which is why I'm excited Teresa's chair of the workforce cabinet, because, you know, we can engage that question and try and find all the answers. Never going to find all the answers, but you can at least engage the question of what do employers want. And one of the things we've been working on, and you and I have talked about this, Teresa, was this concept that Governor Daniels has done up at Purdue with income share agreements. Well, if people are able to make that investment in themselves and then, you know, pay it back, that's a new alternative, right? And we're working through that and trying to figure out ways to do that. But the couple of case studies that we looked at were workforce related four-year colleges, generally in the Northeast, small privates that, were experiencing some financial stress. And what they found was there were small liberal arts colleges that were delivering graduates that employers wanted, but with a tweak. And so they wanted a few different classes or a few different skills or a little of this or a little of that different. The school responds, alters their curriculum just a little. I mean, it wasn't like, they had English majors and they turned them into philosophy majors. They had English majors with just, they were, let's call them amped up English majors. And, and they funded them with income sharing, and it worked for them. And now the school is an offer to their workforce community, graduates who are ready to be employed. And as a result of that, I know I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but the recruiting numbers for that employer were something on the magnitude of 6 digits to recruit a person. And then they wouldn't stay very long. They would stay less than a year. Well, that was before the change. After the change, they didn't have to pay anything to speak of. I mean, it was negligible to recruit people, but they stayed for multiple years. So when they came through the door, they were productive, they were ready to work, and they had the skills to go to work. Training times are shortened, all those sorts of benefits. And those are the kinds of things we're looking at going forward, working with BMO, and we've been involved in that from the beginning as well. And we're a real believer in optionality, right? You can pay for college, you can pay for four-year college, you can pay for a certificate. You can do all this a whole bunch of different ways, and we're all about finding ways to do it. And we believe that.
Chris, if you have a
Well,
follow-up.
I just had one, the last question I had was, it looks like your focus is on high schools, which would lend me to think that you're talking to younger students looking at a 2-year degree or 4-year degree. Can you comment a little bit about, are you working on or engaged with the people coming back after either dropping out or not going to school, but then thinking later? How do you connect with them?
Did I feed you that question?
You did mention it at lunch.
Just kidding. That's one of the things, in my conversations with Teresa and our board and other folks, it's again this delivery question and what do people want? I think, one of the things we believe, and certainly the data seems to bear it out, is that to get to that 2025 goal, you're going to have to interdict, use the word stackable, which I love that term. People are going to have to, in career, right? This is in the beginning of the career, get trained and then just go to work. As they grow, they're going to have to build their skill sets. And one of the things you saw that open position on our org chart. That's for a VP of engagement that has multiple responsibilities. One of them is to engage the chamber community and the corporate community in seeing how we can help them do the things that Bill does now with high school people, and matriculating high schoolers do the same thing in the corporate community. Because I don't know about you guys, but I mean, a few years ago, again, I keep bringing up Carol, but at Carol's urging, she told me about moves, right? So I'm from Southeast Missouri, and there was a class in Southwest Missouri on Ozark history, and it was a move. And I went out there and I looked at it. Now, I had been out of graduate school, I don't know, 20 years. It was an absolute, it was like I was trying to learn Fortran again in graduate school. It was awful. But the way the delivery happened was so different for me. And it got us to thinking, and Bill and I talked about this. If you got somebody who's been in their career for 10 or 15 years, and you ask them to go back and retrain, they're going to have a hard time figuring out where to start. So if we can do brown bags and discussions with companies at their locations, working through their HR offices or their executive suite or whatever, to start having that conversation with people and see where it goes.
The preponderance of high schools was where we could find the bulk of students and get the most efficient help but it goes so far beyond that. And so now if we can start that ball rolling in that way, let's go there as well. And to your previous question about the events, every night, everywhere we go, the families look up at us and go, I didn't know there was this many types of aid. I didn't know how to get that one. I didn't know how to go about that. And that's why, again, on our surveys, it's like, thank you, you were so helpful, and now I have more questions than when I walked in there.
Thank you for the great presentation. That is so great. Teresa and staff, thank you for providing them out. Your literature talks about outreach and literacy and then providing financial aid literacy to help inclusions. Yet, interestingly for me, if you look on page 15, compliment, by the way, of 9 bullets, the first 3 bullets have nothing to do with financial literacy. You talk about that.
Absolutely. And this goes back to the very beginning. We want students to have, we want students, you gotta remember to show a picture too, I forgot we were gonna show a picture. Okay, you're not there yet. For the student to have a great outcome, the best outcome possible, it starts with interest inventories, it starts with what do you want to be, what interests you, what education is needed for that, what are all the different what are all these different things, around that. And this goes back to one of our questions, I think it was 2010 or 2011 when we were talking about the things that we share. They weren't about this student loan or that student loan or this grant or that grant, because if the student gets to the wrong school, if this student misses out on the 21st century scholarship, if these different things don't happen, they take extra years, and that's why we love the 15 to finish. The students go for a couple years, they have some grants, they're not in a bad way, but it takes 6 years to graduate instead of 4, or 4 instead of 2. We show families right at the beginning, if you have to be switching colleges, if you have to be switching majors, that's gonna happen sometimes. We're not gonna get that to 0, but these other things, interest inventories, what fits you, is such a critical foundational step. And we do have families, there are times they're like, I'm only here for the Fafsa and I'm only here for this little bit, but if you really want to do it right, you have to get to this beginning part, we feel, to do it right, and hopefully they go through the whole curriculum. But yeah, that's where those are.
Well, I just wanted to comment on that because in our working session earlier, we were talking about amongst the members, sometimes the problem is just putting dollars before people without context.
That's right.
So I think it just echoes and reinforces that conversation. Thank you. So a question. What is, given the work and given what you've learned, given what you've gleaned, what is the synergistic opportunity from your perspective that you think exists between the Commission for Higher Education and what it is you all do? Is there an opportunity collectively for all the work that you do and all the work and service that the Commission provides? Is there an opportunity that we're not capturing?
I don't know if there's an opportunity we're not capturing, because I know anytime Teresa asks me a question or needs something from us, we're happy to provide it. And I know Bill works with staff regularly, and I know we're working on some other efforts related to teacher training we're talking about. But I mean, one of the things that really perplexes me is, Bill jokes about, how important this early part of it is, how from birth to, we have people come to these events and they're like seniors in high school, they're matriculating in, 2 months, and they're like, I haven't started saving yet, what should I do? Well, a little late. But, Bill used to joke that, what he wanted to do is station people at attorney boards around the state and sign them up for 529s right away, and then, hand them some one-pagers. But I mean, I think there's the opportunity just to keep, stay the course really, just keep pounding away at this. It's hard to get people's interest prior to freshman year. We've talked at length about how can we dive deeper, start with our junior high, middle school, how can we do that? Now, the problem is that those people are hard to pin down. Kids are active and busy, they've got a lot going on. it's hard to get them. When they're getting to high school, they're getting closer. And I think that's the opportunity, is just to stay the course and find more and more ways to collaborate and support, all of the commission's efforts, which we love to do.
And I think there's a few more high schools out there that we all can get to.
So then beyond the work with the commission. With the
Yeah,
folks,
I'm gonna get you in a second here, Chris.
with the people who are representing the different congressional districts around the state, who may not know if your work with the commission itself, what might be some insights or some suggestions or advice that we can utilize based upon you all's knowledge and experience that you take back to different parts of the state?
Well, and again, we treasure, we just work so well with all the commission. We just, there's so much collaboration on so many different things, and it just gets better and better every year. The thing that always jumps into my head is, you know what, I think we all need to get to another 40 or 50 schools on a more robust way. I think the content is solid, it always is tweaked a little bit, but I think we need to even broaden it out even more. There's so many high schools. I think that's one of the keys. The great programs, the great programs that keep getting created here, are wonderful, and people need to know about it, but they also need that concierge kind of to help them get across that finish line. That PR, the school has to do their PR within the high school. They have to get the word out about the events and the free offerings that we all supply. That has to be, promoted better, and that can best be our resources trying to go to a particular high school in Valparaiso to try to do the promotion of the event is probably not time best spent.
Well, and the other piece of this, if I can say this, is we don't really have a fully pulpit. We're just, we're just a small nonprofit kicking around trying to accomplish our mission. So, when we collaborate with you guys, it gives us, a bit of credibility working with the commission and working with other folks. And people, I guess they're more accepting of us. Maybe that's one way of putting it. But these are messages we can continue to pound away at, and will, just because it's important to do.
I think specifically, Chris has a question, but I think specifically related to that, Steph, we probably need to do a better job looking at our outreach coordinators as they are related to the members of our commissions and the areas of the state that they represent, because our outreach people are actually working directly with these folks all the time, and you may not even know who our outreach person is in that area. So I think this is an opportunity for us to let these folks have a better idea of what our outreach people are doing with these guys around the state, and then I know Chris has a.
Okay.
Yeah, one final point is that, Dennis, you talked about legislators around the state. Whenever we're in a district, we let them know we're in a district. So if Bill's in someone's district, we send them an email with the date and time of the event, and so they're welcome to join us.
Chris, go ahead. Chris Murphy.
Thank you, Mike. I've not heard an answer to this question during the conversation. If you covered it, I didn't hear it. So my concern, my question is about your marketing side. Do you partner with, or have you partnered with larger employers in the state to get to their employees who would be interested in this, who would need knowledge, the lower income employees in larger businesses? Or do you have a model that one could use in a business to help deal with the issues that people have with senior education, with the grant programs, otherwise made loans, etc.?
So we have, in the last couple of years, expanded our effort to reach the corporate community. I think we've done 3 or 4 of these. We did the Airport Authority, Stanley, and then the school district.
School districts, a few, yeah.
We've done a few.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely our plan to reach out to through the chamber community and find what their members are needing and how we can be of service.
Chris, could you yeah, go ahead and say a little bit more about what you think would be some opportunities for them with the employer community?
Well, for example, we're trying to make sure that our employees' children are educated. We want our employees to be educated, so we want to try to make sure we're helping them get through college, and we're helping them with grant programs and matching programs, and so that they continue their education and get the 2-year degree. If they have a 2-year, they want to get a 4-year degree. But we're also trying to make sure that we have scholarship programs for the employees of our hourly, the children of our hourly employees, to encourage them to get their kids off to college, to get the degree, and to actually bring a better group of people back to our markets who will be employed and build businesses and do all the things that one hopes well-educated people will do. But there are a lot of issues and questions that we have websites, internal websites, and we would like to find a package of services or a package of ways, and even, chat and that sort of thing, where we can sensitize them to the various programs, introduce them to those programs, and counsel them through the process. They're employed, they're going to be employed, some at lower level income, some at medium as it comes. But all of them have the same issues. Until they're in the 150,000 to 200,000, they still seem to be worried about how they're going to pay for education for their kids. And what you offer is obviously a lot of wonderful programming in that regard on a direct basis through the schools you've been doing. But I wonder if there's a way to use people like us. I mean, we've got 1,300 employees. We'd like to be able to go out to them and encourage them to get their kids educated, and we're here to help.
It's interesting to say that. Bill could be out there next week, frankly. What we do, kind of just because you might have missed the earlier part of the conversation, and I don't know that we even talked about how we do this, but, and I don't think we did talk about that, but when Bill interfaces with either an employer, as we did in those 3 or 4 cases, or a school counselor, they give us the agenda. We don't, and we customize it for them. So, Chris, if you have certain topics you want to address, Bill and his team will create a deck and create a programming custom fit for you for what you want. Having said that, when we look at employers, we look at 3 specific problems because there are 3. One is the one you mentioned with parents who have children going to school. They may not have time to get to a college night. They may not have the good fortune to be able to get to those kinds of meetings or a Fafsa night or whatever. We're happy to bring that straight to the employer's workplace. The other one is returning students or people who are skilling up or using the stackable skill sets, right? So we can do that as well, and those folks, like I noted earlier, it's going to be like walking into a foreign country where they don't know the language. And so Bill and his guys are happy to come create programming for that. But there's a third one, and the third one is to me, I see it as a contemporary problem. And as I mentioned before, one of the things we do is refinance loans. So we can do all this education up front while they're, with Bill and his guys, and then they can go to IU, and IU will send them the don't take that letter. And by golly, even after all that, they do, and they take out too much, and it may have been high cost. We want to try and help them solve that problem too, and the way that we help them solve that problem is we have a marketplace, which is a true comparison, a marketplace like a Travelocity for refinancing loans. We have a product in it, but we're not the only product in it. Hopefully there's 10 products in it maybe. So people can actually compare. Because one of the things we have absolutely learned over the past 4 years is there are no 2 situations that are identical. They just aren't. One person has 1 kid, one person has 4. One person has, a mother-in-law with health problem. One person is a single parent home. One person just wants to go get an associate's degree. One person wants to be a PhD. There's just so many options that that's why Bill's and his guys, the concierge service that they provide is so important, because we really do have to deconstruct what they want, what they're trying to achieve, and it's helpful.
Please call.
We'll call you, don't worry.
Okay, Bill, you're gonna get a call.
All right.
Lisa?
One thing that just sort of struck me is that January and February seem to be the time of year where we're looking at our finances for the year, right? As we look at taxes. Is there an opportunity to put a link on H&R Block and partner with them, because, you know, it seems to be a focused time, and really bring it to their attention as they start looking at planning for next year.
That specific one, they actually started their own thing to, you know, as they'll help with the Fafsa and they'll do this, and it's a fee service, and they do some things, which is fine. And great minds think alike and whatnot. Yeah, exactly. And we have talked with some financial advisors over time, and then they sort of have a fee. I mean, they need to keep the lights on and whatever, and so it's difficult for us because we can't help a family and take them into a fee service.
Right.
So, but we're very aligned with that thought. Yeah. Taxes play a big role in all this.
Very good. Joe, Bill, thank you very much. InvestEd is a great partner for the commission, and this has been very, I think, informational, and we've learned a great deal, and we've learned just how culturally we are connected here and the things that we're doing. So thank you very much for this great.
One final thing.
Uh-huh.
I want to show you one slide. What you see here is a high school night that we did up in northern Indiana, up at Goshen High School. And the guy sitting on the table there is Robert Summers, one of our guys. And we did not post this to social media. The school did. We found it a couple days later. But it really, when we saw it, I get emotional about it. When we saw it, we thought, you know what? This absolutely captures, you know, how we view the mission. Robert was not leaving until this person was helped. So I leave you with that.
Great. Terrific. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. All righty. Next on our agenda is we have 3 academic degree programs for expedited action on page 9 of your book. Do I have a motion for approval? Second. Good. And a second by Alfonso. Yeah, question.
Could I ask you a question?
You bet.
I wondered, I know it's maybe unusual, we say fast track, but I wanted to ask Ken, I was a little confused. I'm not usually confused when I look at different degree programs, but I was a little bit confused on one of those in terms of trying to understand what a doctorate of philosophy in aviation technology and management is. And I didn't know if, and I'm happy to offline this. It just seemed a director of philosophy, and I was trying to figure out what exactly is that, and
It's just a standard concept that is used.
It just means a PhD. It just means PhD.
PhD.
Yes. Yeah.
It is-
There's a lot of philosophy.
it is confusing.
When you're flying,
Yeah, we typically,
ask a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
philosophy.
we usually put it as
Yeah, it's
PhD.
confusing.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, good. All right, any questions of it? We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great, thank you very much. Thank you on the line. I'll give you more time next time. All right, let's now, we do have several capital projects for full discussion. And the first one is from Indiana University leasing some space on the Avenue. And Dr. Morris, Tom, you're here to tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. On behalf of Indiana University and our Bloomington campus, we are proposing a lease of space off campus for housing to continue a lease that we have in effect right now. As you may recall, we have an extensive housing renovation program going on right now. The current year, we're down about 3,000 beds, and we last year came to you with a lease proposal for 3 different complexes in Bloomington. We currently have those occupied. We are proposing now to extend the lease of one of them through the next 2 years, which would give us the opportunity to get through 2 more rounds of renovations. This is for what is called the Avenue in downtown Bloomington. It is 700 beds, so we would be leasing the entire complex. It is a large apartment building in downtown Bloomington. We have found out through this current year that it is immensely popular with our students. They like living downtown. We provide anything that you would imagine in a standard residence hall. We have RAs, we have security, it's on the bus route, it's on campus bus route. Students
can eat at different locations on the campus, but they also like being downtown because it gives them a chance to be in the restaurants downtown. So as I told the subcommittee, pending the approval of the commission and then the state budget committee, this will be rented up in seconds. We already have reservations for this. The financial commitment is $7 million per year, and it is for full summers, 700 beds, and it will take us through the next 2 years, includes parking as well. So be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Tom, maybe I've missed this in the past, but how many more years do you anticipate needing to do this to get through?
I will probably be before you with one more complete renovation project. You approved the Collins renovation in one of your most recent meetings. That'll be closed next year, and then I will probably come to you with the Wright Quad renovation for the year after that, and that should be it.
But then you're going to get
Is
the
that a
pressure.
problem, Tom?
Who wants to know if that's a promise?
Oh, well, I'm
No, he's hedging.
I'm hedging. I'm your most regular customer. We'll have to start over again.
Then you're going to get pressured from all the students to say, no, you need to keep downtown. You need to go backwards.
I think Commissioner Peterson's comment is well served. We are researching how much the students like living downtown, and so that is certainly something we're mindful of.
John, did you have a question on the phone?
Oh, well, yeah, I was wondering, this does pay for itself, doesn't it? It's self-funding.
It does. It's self-funded in our housing program, and so the rents are passed on to the students.
Well, just out of curiosity, if it's so immensely popular, why don't you just keep doing it and not have to build another one?
Well, that's, as I was just saying, that is something we're studying right now. I've been asked the question in other settings and by our trustees, why didn't we just buy the building? As you might imagine, the entity that owns the building is very happy to have it 100% leased up as opposed to selling it to us. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Other questions? Alexa, you want to give us your perspective, staff?
As Tom said, this project allows for returning student housing during the continued renovation of on-campus housing, so staff recommends approval of this project.
Okay, very good. And let me just confirm who is on the phone. I know we have Bev Pitts, Chris Murphy, and John Pop. Are there others on the phone? Okay, I didn't think so.
Chicken.
Just chickens.
Well, we're pleased to have you chickens in this fashion. That's what you're doing. Yeah. All righty, very good. Are there other questions? Not, I'd ask for motion for approval. So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And opposed, same sign? Thank you very much. Motion passes. Congratulations, Tom. Next, we have Purdue University and the 2550 Northwestern Avenue renovation, and Susan Brock Williams will share some information about that project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be before you today. I know you're used to Tony Hahn, but he's taken a new job with Bensons University, so I will try to fill in and do my best. I know, we miss him. But the 2550 Northwestern Avenue renovation is something that you approved as a purchase of a building last year in September timeframe. You purchased that building. It's the old State Farm headquarters building, huge, massive building. So we're in the process now of hoping to renovate approximately 100,000 square feet. And this would then house about 550 to 600 of our employees who are scattered all over the campus right now in 3 different buildings. So this will bring them all into one location. It also will have some swing space that we can use for other needs as we need to move personnel from building to building when we're building other buildings. But it's also going to allow us to decrease our lease space by about 90,000 square feet, which will result in about $1.7 million annual savings in rental expense. So that's a good thing. We're planning for a May 2020 completion date. This is a total project cost of $17.17 million, and $8.4 million of that is R&R funding, with $8.77 of additional funding meeting operating funds and reserves. So we know that, as Tom knows, renovating in this case is much better than building a new building with these personnel. So hoping to approve the project today.
The cost per square
Did you
foot.
say
Go ahead.
May of 2020?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah,
$17
That's why it's-
million worth of work?
Yes.
That's amazing.
yes. A lot of it's electrical and telecom improvements, that sort of thing.
The overall cost per square foot is very reasonable. I mean, we discussed these things, big numbers.
Well, Purdue got a real buy on this property. I didn't know, but it was a really attractive price.
Question?
As far as the building from the campus, or is it on the campus?
It's not on campus, that's the thing, it's you have to drive, you have to, I don't know how far the distance is, but it's not kind of a walkable building from
Yeah.
campus, unfortunately.
Alexa?
The cost of renovating the space is a better value than continuing to lease the space or constructing a new facility, so staff recommends approval of this project.
Do I have a motion for approval?
So
Second. Yes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. You're approved. Susan, now we're going to talk about bands and orchestras.
Bands and orchestras, yes. So this is fully funded by donor proceeds, so this is good. It's our band and orchestras building. It's 37,000 gross square feet facility, and it's going to be right in the heart of our campus on the student success corridor there. You know where a lot of activity with student success is going on already. So we're excited about this. Purdue does not have a school of music, as you know, but we are very happy about the success we've had with musical programs at Purdue. So this is going to house 30 ensembles, percussion, concert bands, jazz bands. Right now, they have to do some of the rehearsals in the basement of Slater Hill, which is not very conducive to sound quality, that's for sure. Our admissions and enrollment folks are very happy about this building because they're going to be able to attract, we think, more STEM students to our university. A lot of the students in bands and orchestras are STEM majors. There's a direct connection there. This is, as I said, 100% gift funded. It's a $20 million project, $10 million single donor. So the building will be named. After this person, we'll be announcing that soon. And we expect occupancy in March of 2022. So the university, as part of that 10 million, will backstop 4 million of that, and the donor, that single donor, will also backstop 6 million. But we anticipate being able to raise the full amount. So this does have a higher per square footage cost because of the sound and insulation that we have to put in the audio-visual recording equipment, etc. But we're very excited about this building. Thank you.
Alexa?
This project, with these some gift funds, will provide space to accommodate the program's needs, to accommodate for its growth, so staff recommends approval of this project.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right, very good. And now the data science building.
You say data, I say data. I don't
Oh,
know.
data, you say data, I say
don't
data.
know. But the data science building is an 86,000 square foot facility. It's going to consist of teaching labs, group workspaces, study spaces, offices, and a large centrally scheduled classroom. This will help us achieve our goal. One of our Purdue News goals is to become a national global leader in the field of data science. So, in fact, this year, our data and computational sciences admissions exceeded our applications by 20% in terms of what our expectations were. And now that program is the single most selected major on campus, data science. So this is definitely a growing area. The data science building will put together our math, statistics, and computer science. It will be located right near the armory, so it's going to be next to the STEM teaching lab. As you recall, recruiting that. It's going to be a complement to the Active Learning Center, of course. We plan to complete, or use the CMC method of delivery, and the total cost of the project is $40 million, with $35 million of that funded by operating fund reserves and $5 million in gift funds, which we again will backstop reserves as well. So I would be happy to answer any questions.
This project will provide space for the growing data science program, so staff recommends approval.
Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second. All right, moved and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Susan. Well done. See, you didn't have to have Tony after all. Okay, sure we do. All right, we also have 5 projects, capital projects that are on the agenda for expedited action, reflected in your materials. Are there any questions or comments regarding those before I ask for a motion? I would ask for a motion for approval of those 5 expedited items.
So moved.
Second. Okay. All those, been moved second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, very good. Those are passed as well. Also included in your book or information on page 45 on a number of academic programs, waiting actions, and those being reviewed, as well as a wealth of media coverage. And again, we do a good job of getting word out, but as you can tell, it's never enough. So we'll continue to build on that. Are there any items of old business which need to come before us today? Any items of new business? And I know, Joe, you had a couple of comments, some things you'd like to say. So.
Yeah, just real quickly, I know I'm going to get out of here. First, just because it's apropos to the group here, I wanted to talk about a few, just real quickly, give some updates on some things that I'm working on in my area through my foundation and some partnerships. Because we talk about how to get information out and try to create programs to generate interest, whether it's in just with the gentleman we heard earlier in the public square and other different programs. And one that we created in East Central Indiana with IU School of Medicine and Ball State, partnership between the hospital there and IU School of Medicine, Ball State, and some others. It's called Optimus Primary, but the med ed program up there is the largest one outside of Indianapolis in the state. Prior to the Optimus Primary starting, on average, 5 med ed students were choosing Muncie as their primary place to go. This year, 90 chose it as their primary place to go. Give or take, I think it's 24 or something like that. There's 60 some students there. And that is using only some very small programs, some added programs that we created around housing and some these physical programs that the med ed students were put through Ball State's Human Performance Lab, and then some other small programs that literally cost several $1,000s just to get people's attention on the good stuff going on there that they maybe just didn't know about. So that's a pretty neat thing that's happening where we are. And another thing is I just wanted to say that on the record that I'm excited, first grateful for Rick Hall's chairpersonship of Ball State University's Board of Trustees, but I'm really excited about Renee Conley. She's been in the Ball State governance system, I guess, for about 15 years, first in the Miller College of Business, then through the Ball State University Foundation on the Board of Trustees. I think she holds two degrees. Tell me if I'm wrong, Sam or Rebecca, I might get some of this wrong. 2 degrees from Ball State. She went to Burris, the lab school that Ball State owns. So I'm really excited to be able to work with her as the new chairperson of the Ball State Board of Trustees. And last, just thanks again, Lisa, for your service here. And it's been exciting to be able to work with you and get to know you and Grant. Good luck with everything. So that's all I have.
Very good, Judd. Thank you very much. Appreciate that update. Are there any other comments or things good for the cause? Seeing none, I just remind everyone our next meeting is March 12th at IUPUI, and we look forward to seeing you then. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.